everyone, I'm Alex and I'm the hands behind Lovecraft Crochet. My plushies are for the anxious, depressed, autistic, and neurodivergent. Small enough to travel in a purse, backpack, diaper bag, or even your pocket. You can check out my Facebook page or TikTok to see what patterns are available and stay tuned for the new ones coming out. I also make hats, scarves, blankets, and dice bags for the tabletop gamer or dice goblin in your life. Feel free to order through the page, TikTok DMs, or via email at love.craft.crochet@gmail.com. Now, on to the segment.
Due to the graphic and disturbing nature of the crimes discussed, listener discretion is advised. Retrostatic Radio presents Killing 15 Minutes.
Hello and welcome to Killing 15 Minutes, where we will give you your serial killer fix in 15 minutes or less, or your podcast is free. I'm Sam Rossi, and shortly I will be handing a poorly written synopsis of a serial killer to my brother, who hasn't read it, on a serial killer he's most likely hasn't heard of. This should be fun. Good luck, bro.
Thanks, Sissy. And luckily the audio does sound much better. Thank you, everyone who listened. Timothy Spencer was known as the South Side Strangler, an American serial killer that killed 3 women after raping them. He became the first serial killer in the U.S. to be convicted on the basis of DNA evidence. His first victim, Debbie Davis, was found murdered September 19, 1987, in her Richmond, Virginia home. Police discovered her naked on the bed. She was strangled by a ligature and ratchet-type device?
Yeah,
like a ratcheting,
They said it's some type of ratcheting device. I assume that if it was ligature strangulation, they were doing the twist one.
Okay, I would assume it would be more something like a ratchet strap or some of those belts that...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because it doesn't have to ratchet, but the belt buckle would easily...
help keep the strangulation happening.
Then there was Dr. Susan Hellems, who was found by her husband on October 3rd, 1987, in their bedroom closet. Her attacker was believed to have entered by cutting a screen on a second-story window. Hellem's cause of death was ligature strangulation, most likely caused by 2 belts around her neck. And then finally, on November 22nd, 1987, Diane Cho, 15, was found in her family's apartment. She, too, had been raped and strangled, similar to Davis and Hellems. Thought you said he only had 3 victims. Because Susan Tucker was found December 1st in her home. She was raped and murdered around November 27th, 1987. Her injuries were matching the other 3 murders. So 4. He killed 4 people.
I believe he was only convicted of 3. That might be what I.
That might have been how you did it? Yeah, fair enough. On January 20th, 1988, Spencer was arrested by Arlington police for Susan Tucker's murder. The police established that he was in Arlington at the time of her rape and murder. He was then charged for the other 3 murders. Forensic testing commenced on samples found at the crime scenes as the cases were prepared for trial. Spencer was first tried in Arlington for Susan Tucker's murder, July 11th, 1988. He was convicted and sentenced to death. DNA evidence linking him to the crime scene, the first case in Virginia to use DNA to successfully prove an offender's identity. Similarly, he was convicted in Richmond for Hellems, Cho's, and Davis's murders. His DNA was compared to other crime scene samples to help solve other murders or rapes. He was found to be connected to a 1984 murder of Carol Hamm. David Vazquez was convicted in 1985 on that. Vazquez was granted an unconditional pardon after spending 5 years in prison. He was the first American exonerated by DNA evidence. Spencer, though, was executed by electric chair on April 7, 1994. It is a very cut and dry case this time. Thank you.
I had to find a few after the Red Ripper that were sweet, short, sweet, and I got all the information and they didn't go into details.
Well, that's also good.
But, yeah, he was the first. Everybody knows Timothy Spencer's. They know that he was the first one convicted of DNA, but not everybody can remember who he was.
Basically, yeah. Like, I knew that the South Side Strangler was... I knew Virginia had the first DNA case, and I knew of the South Side Strangler.
I never put the two together.
Well, I actually... that does lead to a very nice discussion on DNA and how it is both really good and really bad.
It's a blessing and a curse.
I mean, it was really bad is probably over-exaggerating, because DNA evidence can lead to, hey, we arrested the boyfriend because we found semen samples. Well, yes, we had sex, an hour or two before she was killed. I'm just using that as yes, it is a straw man argument, but it has happened, where people had to be pardoned because the DNA evidence was proven inaccurate to the timeline.
I think that nowadays we do rely on our forensics.
Oh,
period.
absolutely, yeah.
Compared to before, there had to be a lot of police work,
There was a lot of legwork involved to it.
Compared to the 2020s to 1970, the technology difference is outrageous, but I think we as a society rely too much on forensics to get the bad guy off the street.
Especially when, I don't think it's that we rely too heavily on it. It's that it becomes tantamount to either a prosecution or a defense.
Yeah.
We have his DNA at the scene. That's all we need. And a lot of the time, that's fair. If the dude's like, no, I never knew this woman a day in my life. Well, then how come,
How come, in her apartment are your fingerprints and you left skin cells so that we could find your DNA? We put you here. If you're telling me you don't know her, then at that point, you kind of know her.
Yeah. But I'm actually really glad you also brought up the David Vazquez was exonerated because of that as well. Because that's another major progress that we've made.
Yes, there have been, I think, over 100 inmates that were wrongfully convicted and they were then cleared with DNA. I can be wrong on that, but I remember hearing that somewhere.
Oh, and I think the number's probably grown over time.
That's probably...
I mean, especially, I know relatively recently, a couple were posthumously, I love the irony of, well, we arrested this black guy in 1981. He died in 2014, but in 2022, we're going to give him a posthumous pardon because we found DNA evidence proved he did not do it. Again, I don't...
But again, no, you're right. There was a lot of, the DNA evidence. One of the things, one of the problems, though, is being able to solve those, crimes in the, let's say, 80s.
Right.
They didn't keep the DNA as they should have.
Right.
So now in the 2020s, we can't say, hey, okay, this person was raped and, killed, but because we didn't, save the sample, store the samples correctly, we can't solve this 40-year-old crime, even though the person who probably did it is still alive.
Or another thing that's come up relatively recently, because of all the different, evolutions, is like, even 90s DNA evidence is very different than 2020 DNA evidence.
Oh, totally.
And we've seen where, a cold case has to stay cold because while they were testing blood samples in the 90s and whatnot, that's all they were able to do. It's a destruction of the evidence because they're trying to use the evidence,
Right. It is something that they're talking about seeing if they could get DNA off of the Zodiac Killer stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking the only one that they're going to be able to get DNA evidence off of the,
What, the letters?
I won't even go with the letters because that could be almost anybody, copycat-wise or not.
Well, I was going to say it's also been 50,
Well, but depending on how they store the letters, depends on, if
That's very true, too.
But the only one that I could think of is the cab killer, the cab driver that was killed in San Francisco.
Right.
That's the only one where the killer was in the car, or at least they assumed he was in the car.
He was assumably not in a skin-tight Lycra outfit. Like, I'm still saying the pleather dude, the dude in the pleather spacesuit is totally different than the other one.
I agree. I completely
however,
agree with that.
the Zodiac Killer is actually on our Patreon goal list. So if you would like to hear us break the 15-minute formula for much longer about popular people, then please share us. Once we get to 1,000 unique listeners and followers on our various social medias, we will do a poll for what will be the
the
specials, which will be, at 1,000, at 5,000, at 10,000, and we'll cover the Zodiac Killer. We'll cover Timothy McVeigh.
Would you really think the Unabomber, Timothy McVeigh, as a...
I think...
Would you consider him a serial killer?
I wouldn't.
I would consider him...
I would, because he has a modus operandi.
Right.
He had a manifesto. There's a lot to dig in there. Mostly I just would like to talk about him.
Are you sure it's Timothy McVeigh we want to talk about, not Ted Kaczynski?
No, Timothy McVeigh, the Oakland City bomber.
Yep, okay.
You're the one who went to the Unabomber.
I did went to the Unabomber because Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. The man was batshit crazy, but that manifesto.
Well, that's because he was a very educated man.
He was. I'm not arguing that. Anyways,
that is its own can of worms. Final thoughts, Sissy.
I think that DNA has probably been the best thing that we've ever come up with for criminology.
No, that's very true.
I think that being able to say this dude didn't do it was also great. So the state of Virginia did something good.
And that's a weird bombshell to land on. I've been AJ Carey.
And I'm Sam Rossi.
Doses.
Laters.
Killing 15 Minutes is hosted by Arthur Carey, with scripts written and researched by Sam Rossi. If you like this episode or want to stay updated on this series, consider following Killing 15 Minutes on Patreon or Retrostatic Radio on all major social media platforms. Good night and God bless.
You're watching Retrostatic Radio.
Wheel of Random is turn, turn, turn. Tell us the 15 minutes we shall learn.
I'm Sam Rossi, writer and co-host of Randomly 15 Minutes, where the Wheel of Randomness gives me the topic and I write about it.
I'm Megan Klodnicki, and I'm the host of Randomly 15 Minutes. I cold read what Sam writes and learn in real time about a random topic.
You can find us on all major podcast platforms and YouTube.
Follow us on Facebook at Randomly 15 Minutes to get more random facts.